Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest. It's early this morning and it is snowing. So I think it's pretty much going to snow all morning, and it's not really getting above freezing anymore. So we'll probably have snow for a while. These roads will clear up a little bit, but it is Saturday, so there's not too much traffic. But it's just less than an inch, nice and dry, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. First thing I'm going to do this morning, I've got a few jobs. I'm going to go ahead and get some stuff ready, get organized. I just finished up the bus project. We'll go ahead and take a peek at that. Well, almost completely finished. It's insured and everything's in place, so we took it on its first test drive. And here it is. So check out those videos if you haven't seen them. But here's the little travel bus that we made. And let's see. I think I had my GoPro battery in here, but I must have moved it. Oh yeah, here it is. Looks like my little one got a hold of it. Well, I'll find that in a minute. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get set up for today. I've got it organized, and the reason I mentioned the bus project before I open the truck is because you'll see in just a second here. There's tools everywhere. So I had a lot of the tools over in that bus project while we were working, and I need to do some serious organizing. So I'm going to take half an hour this morning, get some stuff in their general places, and then we'll hit the road. And welcome to a snow day in the life of a mobile mechanic. So people often ask what I do when it's cold outside. The answer is usually be cold. I'm layered up, and we're going to get working today. And here's a look at the back of the truck. I've got my toolboxes in here. I've done some truck tour videos so you can kind of see what's in here, but this place is just a mess. I've been the past 2 weeks working on that project, and I haven't really done any other jobs. That's finished, and I've got a few jobs lined up that I'm going to do before the holidays here, so time to put stuff in its place. All right, just getting the snow cleaned off the front of the truck here. But this truck's so tall, I've got to stand up on the bumper to reach the window. So we'll get the ice off. We're gonna go head up to the parts store, pick up some parts and some supplies. All right, here it is after a super quick organize. It's not perfect at the end of the week. Usually I'll do that, but it is Saturday, but I've still got a busy day today. And we got to lock these drawers so they don't open while I'm driving, and we'll head over to the parts store. All right, so I just got out of AutoZone. This is where I like to buy most of my parts, my favorite auto parts store. It's closest to me. It's my favorite place. Their warranty's awesome. I've got a commercial account here, and yeah, I spend quite a bit here, so it gives me good perks. Where they'll warranty labor and parts and give me a good discount depending on how much I spend. So I usually stay at a pretty good level there to get a good warranty and everything. So we've got a few jobs today. There's a car that has to be jumped off every time it's started, so we're gonna get that a new battery and a new belt because the belt's worn out on that. I picked up some brake cleaner, some antifreeze. I ordered a fan for my wife's vehicle where the cooling fan doesn't work, so if you sit still it overheats. Probably not on a day like today or this winter, but I'm gonna go ahead and get that fixed since I know that's an issue. And we're gonna head over here. I just got a call for a no start, so we're gonna run over across town this morning and do a diagnosis on that, see if we can get the car started for this kid out here at school. So here we go. Right, here we are. It's still snowing. It's probably going to snow all morning, like I mentioned. We've got the car here in question, and the one thing about the winter, especially if you have to work under the hood, is like I mentioned it in another video, leaning up against all the snow, getting wet. The snow out here is really dry. I'm trying not to get it all over the place, but I'm going to get my brush. We'll sweep it off. This is actually the guy's roommate who I mentioned. He has a check engine light on, so we're going to do this first, and then we'll go get this other guy's car started for him. And yeah, we'll get the computer out. I'm gonna get the snow dusted off so we don't get it all over the inside, and I've got the key here. Okay, normally I throw my computer on top there while I'm getting in the car, but obviously there's a bunch of snow up there, so a little bit different, but snow days are fun. There's quite a few of them in the winter, so sometimes I won't work on a snow day, but today we've got some stuff that we have lined up, and I want to make sure snow doesn't fall in there. We'll get this computer hooked up, see what's going on here. All right, so the only code we have, we've got two codes. Yeah, cylinder 3 misfire. It's the same code, I thought. There was just one. So we've got cylinder 3 misfire detected. I'm gonna see if I can feel that misfire when I start the car here in a second. It could have been, you know, just a random misfire that started up one morning on a cold start and just tripped a code. So I'm gonna see if I can feel it. And if I can't, then I'll pull spark plugs, just see if it needs a tune-up. Probably the best place to start if it doesn't have a misfire now. And if it doesn't, then I'm gonna clear these codes, and it shouldn't come back if it's running smooth, so we'll see how it feels. Yeah, I don't feel a misfire, so it was probably something where maybe it had low fuel pressure on acceleration at some point, or again, a cold start or something, and just developed a misfire for just a second and tripped the code. So it's not a hard set code here in the computer, it's just pending. Again, I don't feel it. I'm gonna go ahead and clear the codes, and we'll pull that spark plug just to see if it needs a tune-up. But again, we'll clear him, he'll just drive it. If it comes back, then we'll talk to him again, and if it doesn't, then that's that. But we'll pull that spark plug just to give him an idea of what kind of shape that's in. And we'll listen for vacuum leaks as well while I'm up there, just in case it has a small vacuum leak somewhere. My experience with the misfires, it could be a bunch of things, but a lot of times it's again just one of those situations where it misfired a couple of times and it doesn't come back. So yeah, and I don't hear any vacuum leaks, so we're gonna go ahead and clear those codes and pull a spark plug, and I don't anticipate this one comes back. All right, so I got some good information here from the guy, and apparently it sputters a little bit whenever he's accelerating. So I've seen this before where it's bad spark plugs. It could also be bad fuel pressure. So I'm gonna pull these spark plugs. Hopefully it's just that. Again, I've seen this specific issue about 3 times in the past year, and I think 2 of those times it's been just bad spark plugs. So these weren't in there very tight at all. Good thing they didn't blow out at some point, but that may mean that they're new. Yeah, they don't look too old. That gap looks all right. Let me just do a compression test on this cylinder. I mean, there's a bit of buildup on there, but the gap's fine. They might be iridiums. Yeah, it doesn't say. They look old enough to be replaced. Let me just do a compression test while we've got this out and make sure we have fine compression on that cylinder. All right, I've just pulled the coils off those other spark plugs so we can crank it without starting, and we'll look at the compression here. Just make sure he has good compression on there. And then if it continues to do that while he's accelerating, the best thing to do is going to do a static and running pressure test on that fuel pressure. And then we may just replace spark plugs first and see if that goes away. Just depends on what he wants to do. So I'll crank it over and we'll see how that turns out. 9500 psi, that's just fine. That shouldn't be causing any issues there. Okay, now we'll do running. That looks fine. Yeah, so I'll probably recommend that he replace his spark plugs anyways. It's one of those things you can't always tell by looking at it, so probably a good place to start. And then we'll dig into this fuel pressure, but it's going to be a bit more to do a test on the fuel pressure system just because of the lack of connectors there. So I'll recommend spark plug replacement. We'll see if that goes away, and if If it does, perfect, and if not, then we'll look at that fuel pressure. That's probably the only other thing at this point. So this is a diagnosis well done up until the next point when we talk back with him or it doesn't come back, and we'll head over there and get this other car started. Okay, so that last guy, he wants to do those himself just to save some money, so he's going to replace the spark plugs. And then if he needs some more help after that, then we'll let him know. I do sort of a deal if I'm already at one place. Somebody else needs something, I'll either look at it for free or for real cheap. So okay, we're here at this car that's not going to start, and I'm going to go ahead and check this out and see if we can get it started. Most of the time, especially on cold mornings like this, it's the battery. So first thing I'll do is just hook a jump box up to it and see if it'll start. So we'll do that. Okay, here we've got the key. I'm going to go ahead and just see what it sounds like, if the starter's clicking or anything like that, and then we'll hook the jump box up if it doesn't start. Sometimes it won't start and then I'll come in and it'll just start, so that's a little tricky. But okay, nothing here. Let's go ahead and hook the jump box up and see if we get it started then. Okay, so just looking up here, there's quite a bit of corrosion around these, so regardless, I'm going to clean these for him, and hopefully this gets it started. It might just be a dead battery or bad connection. Okay, so when I reviewed this jump box, I really like this. This is my go-to right now. I thought that I had to warm it up myself. This jump box actually warms itself up, so when that little snowflake came on, that was just telling me that the jump box was warming itself up, and I didn't have to take it inside to warm it up. But I think it takes like 30 seconds, and once this goes away, we'll see if we get this started. Okay, it's ready. Let's go. Fingers crossed this is it. It'll be nice and simple. Yeah, so a bit of an exhaust leak I heard just there, so I'm going to see if I can tell which side it's coming from. Obviously, one side of these is a lot easier to work on than the other. And there's quite a bit of oil up here, so this is going to be coming from the valve cover gasket that's leaking. So I'll probably just recommend a valve cover gasket replacement. And yeah, I can't tell which exhaust manifold it is. I'll listen to it here in a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and clean up these terminals on this battery, and then we'll leave him as a mobile mechanic. This is the little thing that I like to do. I wouldn't call it a game, but I like to let the customer decide what they want to do with their vehicle. In normal shop, they're like, hey, we're going to replace your battery, you know. But I can get this started for them and say, hey, you can let it run for 15 minutes. We'll see if it starts again, and you can take the chance that it does. Or you can drive on down to the auto parts store and buy a battery, and they'll install it for you. So I'm not going to be in charge of selling him this battery today. But he can decide if he wants to see if it'll charge up and keep driving it, or you know, go ahead and get a new battery. So that'll be up to the customer, and that's a way. I mean, they assume the risk, but they can save some money sometimes if it just discharged because they left their lights on or something, and it might be fine after that. So we'll get this cleaned up real quick. All right, so I'm going to clean this up. I've got a wire brush here. Mostly just these terminals are dirty, and I just got a report that apparently this car got stranded last winter because there was a bad connection at the battery here. I think it's the same battery, and it may be the same thing. When I clamp that jumper box onto those cables, it can bypass completely the battery and just send power straight to the cable. So it could be that, could have been something else, but we'll get this cleaned up and get a lot of silicone on there so this doesn't happen again next year. All right, gonna clean these terminals up. All the tools pretty much I'll use are in the description. This one is the most frequently asked about, this battery cleaner. It's in the description, but I like this one the best. Okay. Clean up this one. Just scrapes the clean layer off that metal on the inside. And we'll tighten these back down. Oh, I gotta put some silicone on there. Somebody asked me one time what my favorite tool was. I think I've come to determine that it's a can of silicone spray. I use this stuff for everything. Okay, just tight enough so they don't wiggle when you try and turn them. Okay, now we'll jump that off and leave it running for a few minutes and see if that battery charges up. right, next job here this morning. Shouldn't have set the battery there. We've got to replace the battery in this. It only drives if they jump it off, but it runs fine after it's jumped. So dead battery here. I think the battery is like several years old. I checked it. And we're going to put a new belt on this as well. That belt's worn out. So do those nice and quick this morning. And on to the next thing. And for proof here, I guess, if you want proof, you can come see that this isn't going to start. Some people don't believe that it won't start just because I said so. See, nothing, completely dead, no lights, no nothing. But it does run if you jump it off. I've been driving it for a month or so like that. Oh, here's my favorite thing about some of these Volkswagens, watch. Ding! Did you see it? Come here, look. Get close. Here's my favorite thing about some of these Volkswagens. Ding! A little hood latch. So, yeah, we need some more coolant in that. That's low. So we'll top off the coolant before we leave. And that's why I keep stuff like that on in stock. So we're gonna replace the battery. Here's something that I always look at as well on these Volkswagens, and I think maybe some Audis have these. This little fuse box right here, this will melt. So I'll always look for signs of melting. I can already see some right here. These get really hot. This plastic's melting. We're gonna go ahead and pop this and look at it. And the fact that it's not really coming open easy. There you go. So this is a super common issue on these. I'll always go through and tighten these down if I can. This one's completely melted and we're just gonna have to replace this. So this is the alternator wire here. Coming from the alternator, this wire itself is loose. There's not gonna be any tightening this down. It's all completely melted. So I'm gonna go ahead and order one of these and we'll just replace this for them. I'll see if I can tighten this down, but as soon as it gets ordered in, we'll replace it. We'll get it running on the battery, the new battery form today. These sit like this for a couple months. Obviously, you don't want to leave it like this. These can catch on fire. I've not seen one personally. I've seen a vehicle catch on fire and it wasn't for this, but obviously if it's hot enough to melt this plastic, you want to be real careful with that. So we're gonna go ahead and order one of these to replace it, and when that comes in, we'll do that. It'll probably be this next week since today is Saturday, and we're gonna get the belt today replaced. So you can see here, we've got a pretty worn out belt. These V grooves in it have kind of squared off quite a bit. So time to replace that, and this battery completely dead and 3.5 years old, so definitely needs to be replaced. And not just because of that, not because of the age, but it's dead. Sometimes if they're a few months old, you'll start to consider warranties, stuff like that, where it came from. This one's going to be past that, so it gets a new battery and a new belt. We'll get these terminals cleaned up as well. I'll always clean them and put some silicone, some felts on these, and get the battery out of the way here. Super starter brand. Did that come from a junkyard? Probably not. Ooh. Try that off as best I can. All right. Yeah, so we'll put some felts on this to absorb any acid that comes up from the battery here, and nothing more to it. Maybe find a clip for that unless it's completely broken. Make sure you put it in the right way. Yeah, this is missing its hook as well to tie this battery down, so yeah, what are you gonna do, you know? I don't have any of those. I'll probably get a few, but clean these up now and get some silicone paste on these ones rather than spray. So we'll get these terminals cleaned up and get some these felts on there and some silicone. Okay, you don't want to mix the colors of these felts up, because I've been called out to a handful of emergency calls this year where somebody couldn't jump off their vehicle. only because of the fact that their felts were on the wrong terminal, so they were crossing up their jumper cables, which I've also seen completely melt those in half a couple of times. Okay, negative, positive. Nice and tight. Nice and tight, tight enough so they don't wiggle. Don't think this one's going to really fit here. Yeah, so that cover is not going to get on there. And now we'll do this belt. It should just be a simple tensioner here. Alright, so on this tensioner, just one of these weird styles. It's a Volkswagen, what can you say? We're just going to hook a wrench on the top there, push down just to move that tensioner out of the way. And I'm going to look at the belt routing here real quick. Just get a picture of it in my head before I remove this belt. Pretty simple, but good to just have a reference. Sometimes they'll be here on the vehicle, sometimes they'll be drawn on by hand. If not, then just use Google. So pop that off one of those pulleys there. Then we'll route everything back up with the new belt. Oh yeah, this belt's stiff too. Look at how it's going to hold its shape here. That's probably not just because of the cold. So sometimes you can use these as well as a map. But I remember what it looks like. Got a good belt here. Continental. Still not sponsored by AutoZone. I'll throw that out there. So AutoZone, you want to sponsor me? Hit me up. All right, took a little assortment of different wrenches just to get on that, and just working it on each pulley all the way. The belt's on now. You can take a peek at it. We've got a nice new belt on there, and quite a bit more ridges on there. I'll show you the difference. The difference on these grooved belts here, you just want to look at the spacing between these grooves, and you can see how much more space there is between these. Just a bit of dry rot as well versus how thick and close together those are. So that's how these wear out. That's great. This should run now. I'm going to get some antifreeze in here and we'll show you it running, and we'll go on to the next project. All right, here we go. We'll see if this starts now. But it's there. It's been sitting a few weeks, so that's probably why it's cold current up there. Yeah, belt's running good. We'll let this run, warm up, make sure it doesn't do that again. If it does, we'll start looking at why it's having that long crank. Okay, it just ran for just a couple of minutes. Here we go one more time for good measure. That doesn't sound amazing, but it's only got 119,000 miles, so it's starting up better at least. It just sounds a little weird when it cranks. All right, that's a job well done. On to the next one. At the 𝐮𝐸𝐺. All right, so we just picked up the last part for today. It's getting in the afternoon. We got this fuel tank we picked up from the dealership. It's used, but they don't make them anymore, so we had to get it from the dealership for another job later next week. And we got some hot dogs from the Provo best dog place, 𝐮𝐸𝐺. So that's it. We'll finish this job this afternoon and call it a day and eat our good dogs. All right, here we go. Last thing for today. We've got this cooling fan in my wife's vehicle I diagnosed on a live stream a couple of weeks ago, so feel free to check that out if you want to see the diagnosis. But this fan here is dead. It doesn't come on when we supply it some power or when it's supposed to. So we got the new fan here. We diagnosed it all the way down to the motor itself, and we'll get this swapped in. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long here. A couple of 10mm, and I've already got it unplugged so it doesn't accidentally come on. They can come on when they're warm and stuff, when the vehicle's off on some vehicles. I don't think that would ever happen, but I've got it unplugged just in case, you know, even though it's dead. So out of there. Should be two more on the bottom. There's one here that's already already loose, so I'm just going to take it out by hand. Take this. Hoses here. I'm going to try and do this quick and get out of this cold. It's late in the afternoon here, and we're just going to get done. Okay. All right, so we've got this all loose here. I'll slide this cooling fan just out of there, just like that. We've got the replacement here. It goes right back in that place. Okay, get these bolts started all at the same time before we tighten any down. Alright, we'll do this last little bolt here. And we just got to get this one going. We'll tighten these down. And we'll tighten down this hose clamp on the radiator, top it back off with coolant since something came out. Put this bracket back in place. This AC line. Tighten down this hose clamp. On these plastics, you want to be careful with these plastic radiators that you don't over tighten those hose clamps, because it can break those. Last but not least, we'll pick up our antifreeze jug since we had some spill out. Now we'll top off that empty antifreeze, since probably just a quart, maybe less than a quart came out there.
Don't forget that hose.
So yeah, before we do that, we'll put this hose back in. It's this little vent hose to the reservoir. And we also want to plug this in last thing, but we'll go ahead and top off this radiator. Right, there we go, nice and topped off. I have a funnel for topping these off. This is the high point here on the radiator, so it should be fine. And last but not least, we will plug our fan in here. The connector is down here on the bottom, so there we go, clicked in. That's a job well done. This is a day in the life of a mobile mechanic snow day edition. Nice and cold, fingers are cold, ears, nose, everything's cold, but that's okay. It's just part of life here in the winter. And thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to support the channel. Check out the merchandise, or just leave a nice comment down below. But a subscription helps. It goes a long way, and it can help us keep making awesome videos like this. And I'll try and respond to as many comments as I can. So thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.